James Rolfe, better known as the Angry Video Game Nerd, is arguably the most important creator in the history of YouTube. He gave rise to video game focused videos as well as comedy skit videos here on YouTube. Many creators from the earlier days of YouTube have cited Rolfe's work as inspiration for taking up a camera and starting a channel. And apparently, these days, Rolfe is the reason Trump won the election. This is grass. Feels nice. You should touch it. AVGN being a far-right symbol now, apparently, aside, I should add, I was a little bit more of a fan of Pissed Off Hardcore Angry Gamer, okay?
This looks like a fucking chocolate chip cookie!
I love every single thing about that guy's content, especially the Nintendo shit cube.
And this is what I like to call the Nintendo shit cube. And the reason I call it the Nintendo shit cube, because it's a piece of fucking shit!
Now, we wouldn't be talking about the AVGN if it wasn't for a good friend of Rolf's who convinced him to upload his bad Nintendo games videos to YouTube in the first place. That is, of course, Mike Matei. Mike is a somewhat divisive figure in the old Cinemassacre crew. While he was part of arguably some of the absolute best episodes in the earlier years, some fans didn't really like when the Cinemassacre channel was producing more Mike-centric content. I mean, personally, I think Minecraft with Gadget is his magnum opus, in my opinion.
I understand why all the kids are playing this game these days. It's because they like to build brown bricks with Minecraft. I also like to build brown bricks with Minecraft. It's the most fun you can possibly have.
Now, there was also the introduction of the Screenwave media crew in the more recent years, after the original crew had parted ways. A lot of fans were angry that James got help with his videos, citing the decline in quality as Screenwave's doing. I mean, I kinda liked rental reviews.
Was Akira? I know it was big in Japan. Obviously, it was successful. But was it a cultural touchstone? Like we would look at like a Ghostbusters or something like that.
Okay, maybe it's best that they stop that one. There was also a subreddit created called the Cinemassacre Truth, which investigated the Screenwave media crew, as well as looked into the past of various associates of James Rolfe. Essentially, it was a bunch of whiny bitches trying to find a reason to cancel the AVGN because they didn't like the newer videos. Don't like it, don't watch it, is what I always say. Like, get a life, dude. There was, of course, something notable that came out of looking into Mike Matei's background. Something big and concerning. No, not his dong. That is, of course, the Loco Bandito. So, the Loco Bandito is a series of comic strips centered around the eponymous character created by Mike Matei. He has stated that his intent was to create a shock comic in the vein of artists like Robert Crumb. Oh boy, maybe I'll talk about Robert Crumb on the channel one day. Anyway, he made a few strips that resurfaced while the Cinemassacre Truth were looking for anything to cancel the Cinemassacre crew with. And, yeah, these strips, they were not received well, to put it lightly. They were deliberately created for shock value and had extremely crude language and racial slurs, as well as gross-out humor and no punchlines. The biggest offense. Come on. Racial humor, in my opinion, is something that can work. But it either needs to be done in a manner that is either extremely subtle or so over the top you can't help but just laugh at it. So, actually, here are two examples of both types from popular American sitcom mockumentary The Office. First, the subtle one.
Who would like an authentic New York bagel? Stanley? Thank you. Oh, no. I got a pumpernickel just for you. Wow.
Now, the over-the-top one.
Is she in the fridge? Where is she hiding? I don't know where she is. Oh, 'cause I'm drunk. I can't even find her.
You know I am.
I do. Hi. I just haven't hugged you in a while.
See? Now, the key to this kind of humor, and honestly all kinds of humor, to be successful is that the jokes need to be funny. I know. Crazy. Well, did Mr. Matei succeed in this? Well, let's just take a look at the surviving strips. I'm sure there's more, but these are the ones I found, and find out. But just before we begin, due to YouTube's terms of service, these strips will be heavily censored. If you would like to read these uncensored for whatever reason, I don't know why, but I did find these on the Internet Archive. I don't think it's worth it though, but, you know, it's out there. So, let's begin. Okay, so our first strip is called Shit Wars. Wow, really funny. So the Loco Bandito finds a glory hole, decides to look around the other side and sees George Lucas. He proceeds to fart through the glory hole because he didn't like the prequels. These date back to 2004. Oh, if only he knew. Well, that's what I would say, but I've never seen Star Wars, nor do I have any desire to engage with that franchise. That's entirely due to 1. People's reactions being hilarious, and 2. The fans. Both sides of the fans, that is. The ones that'll eat up any slot that has a lightsaber in it, and the ones that throw a hissy fit anytime a new one comes out. They're both just terrible. Okay? I will not apologize for this Star Wars slander. Not now, not never. Also, back to the comic, there's an inconsistency where Matei forgot to draw the texture in the Bandito's hat. This strip is probably the least offensive and the closest to actually having a punchline. That punchline in question being someone farting on Lucas's face. Yeah, I'm whatever on this one. Moving along. Next up, we have Racist Pig, most likely the most offensive one in this set. Matei proudly puts his name on this one. Honestly, he really should have used a pseudonym. I mean, me personally, I've considered drawing hentai under a pseudonym, but there's the issue of style familiarity. But then again, gooners spend like the US government, so maybe one day I'll take the plunge. Anyway, in this chapter we realize this is an episodic series and has no overarching narrative. As for what happens in it, well, the Bandito assaults various minority groups in different ways and yells slurs. At the end, he realizes he too is classified as a minority and poops on his own face. Just a brief aside, I've always hated the word minority. It feels almost dehumanizing, but at the same time it sounds a bit better than non-white, I guess. I don't know, I just don't like either of those words, you know? Like, stop, like, nah, I don't... Anyway, this strip would have been better if he made fun of white people too. I mean, come on, if you're gonna make fun of these groups, make fun of everybody, you know? Racial humor works best when you make fun of everyone. I think someone who was a master at that was Daniel Tosh, actually. Oh, Jesus Christ, I'm getting old. I just realized I need to explain to some of you guys who Daniel Tosh was. Oh my god. Alright, so Daniel Tosh was a comedian who hosted a wildly popular show called Tosh.0, where he reviewed and joked about videos from the internet. He was known for having an extremely edgy approach to humor, oftentimes using racial humor effectively. And back to the matter at hand, Mike Matei is no Daniel Tosh. Yeah, this episode of the Loco Bandito is definitely going to the bottom of the tier list. Alright, in the next episode, Penny Arcade, the Loco Bandito comes across an old-timey peep show thingamajig. I don't know what these things are called, but they were real. He looks around and pleasures himself and leaves a mess for the janitor to clean up. Now, I don't know why Reddit was all up in arms about this comic. They have an entire dedicated subreddit for leaving coming public. No, I am not joking. This is very real. 100%. Like, I'm being unironic. There are people that do this shit. Anyway, as for the review for this episode, not funny, didn't laugh, moving on. Our next episode, Red Snapper, has an Inuit coming across the Loco Bandito in search of fish. The Loco Bandito presents some woman named Morad's nether regions as a substitute. I mean, I'm kind of on the Bandito's side when he asks the Inuit if he's R-worded, fuck YouTube, for looking for a frozen lake in the desert. I mean, like, come on. Yeah, this one's just dumb. You know? Next. Alright, so in the next one, titled Spore Sport, the Loco Bandito is on The Price is Right. He gets to play Plinko and loses. Then he tells the host to place his testes in his mouth and draw upon them succulently. Well, not in such an eloquent manner. This is neither funny nor offensive, it's just bad. Oh boy, this next one is worse than Minecraft with Gadget, where it loops around from being so bad it's good back to so bad it's just bad. So, Bandito Fanatic shows a fan meeting with the Loco Bandito. He wants the Bandito to sign his comic book, but instead the Bandito rips up the book. He then proceeds to punch the fan so hard his brain flies out of his skull, after which he begins to fornicate with said brain and begins chopping up the fan's body with a chainsaw with the intent to sell his body parts on the black market. The strip ends with the Bandito injecting what is likely heroin. I hate this one the most. The punchline is just violence. You're telling me this guy worked on one of the most influential internet series of all time, but his humor is just haha violence funny? Like, come on, dude. Also, the Ally McBeal CD player line threw me for a loop. First of all, real-world references automatically date any and all comics, so don't do it. Tip to aspiring writers from me, okay? Also, her CD player? What? Maybe that's a lost strip. Yeah. Also, not funny, didn't laugh. Next. Alright, so the next episode, careful where you stick that thing, has the Bandito receiving cocaine from a character named Charles Nelson Riley, who, despite being named, doesn't appear in future episodes, but might have if there are any strips that have become lost media. Anyway, they snort the coke, and Charles copulates with the bus. The Bandito says that the bus is full of a certain type of people, and Charles has AIDS now. Yeah, this one, despite being the one I had to censor the least, is also the most absurd. Maybe it's because I've recently become aware of people that actually engage in this kind of activity with automobiles, so I'm not saying Mike might be into that, but, you know. I mean, like, look, I've drawn some stuff people might call explicit, graphic, offensive, even hypersexualized. I mean, if you read my comic Doomsayer and just dismissed it as just blood and tits, like, I'm cool with that, it just ain't for you then. But at no point did the thought of someone performing coitus with an automobile cross my mind. And I'm running out of synonyms for but I can't say that word in that context, I don't think. Maybe. Maybe I can. I don't know. Anyway, this one's one of the better ones, honestly, but that isn't saying much. One more to go. For the final episode, Sucky Sucky, the Bandito is yelling slurs. He finds this character using his fleshlight. Although at the time of this comic's creation, I don't think they were invented yet, so Matei referred to it as a blowjob machine, which I think is way funnier than fleshlight, so hey, score one to Matei. Anyway, the Bandito gets it back and tells the elf-looking dude that he filled it with HIV-positive lube. Damn, 2 AIDS jokes in a row. Yeah, this one isn't funny either, so that's a wrap on the surviving strips. Hopefully my channel survives as well after uploading this one. Now, it's time for the art review. So, how's the art? Actually, Matei is a pretty solid cartoonist. His artwork is legible and the characters are consistent from panel to panel. Some of the characters depicted are blatant racial stereotypes, but that was also the intent. The paneling itself is kind of bland. Almost everything is drawn from a 3/4 view and the panels are all the exact same size. There's no variety, which leads to no pacing or comedic timing. There was another infamous webcomic I looked at in the past called Control-Alt-Delete, where the first comic, the very first one in that series, had what many called an unnecessary panel. I, despite not finding that joke funny at all, will defend Buckley's use of the silent panel. It was intended to create a pause before the punchline with better comedic timing. The constant flow of words in the Loco Bandito that were poorly written in each panel, no variety in the actual paneling, and the character designs that were just stereotypes really drags this comic down into the gutter. You know? No pacing whatsoever. Weirdly enough, at a certain point, Matei was going around and trying to get this to a publisher. The Loco Bandito. To a publisher. Well, I bet there's a niche group of some guys that like funny hats and long white cloaks that might have loved to publish it. The art is okay from a technical standpoint, I guess. I mean, it's not going to blow anyone away like a Yusuke Murata or a Junji Ito. It just feels stiff, and it lacks intent other than, haha, racism funny, you know? Like, come on, man. You could have did better than that. Alright, so final thoughts on the Loco Bandito. Yeah, it's bad, but it's more like Matei was going for the so shocking that people couldn't help but laugh at it approach, but it just ended up being kind of shit, you know? The question that I'm sure everyone is asking is Mike a good old boy? No, I don't think so, actually. He has publicly stated that he was aiming to shock people and that if it offended some people, he was sorry. And honestly, he just doesn't strike me as that kind of person. Also, I should note that the oldest date I could see on these was 2004, which was 20 years ago. And while some people might say, like, well, Mike's older, like, he was an adult at the time, sure, you know, and he probably knew what he was doing, but the evolution of edgy humor has changed over the years. Back then, just saying slurs was edgy humor. You know, it wasn't taken as seriously as it is now, you know. Did I think it was funny? No. But, you know, that was what being edgy was back then, you know? Now being edgy is like, I don't know, jaywalking. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I don't think he's really a good old boy, you know what I mean? Now, the better question is, will he ever come back to Cinemassacre and make the newer nerd episodes less shit? We can only hope. I've been John. You've been great. Thank you for watching this video.